You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hello, the internet.
Welcome, everybody. It's Minute to Skim It. I'm Miss Jen. That's Kyle. And that's Jay. People you don't usually get to see their faces of. See? They're really cool. And they love comic books as much as I do. And they have also read the books for this week. So they're going to tell you all about what their reading brought to them. They're not going to spoil anything for you guys. And they'll let you know what to run off to your LCS and tell them right away to add to your box. Remember last week when I told you that the Heckfire Gala was going to be the book of the week? Guess what? Everyone's sold out everywhere of every single cover. So see, pay attention to us. We might know a thing about comics.
Or not.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know anything. I just go, this is good. Read this.
And that's back.
Miss Jen's the one with the inside knowledge. Let's be real.
Well, maybe a little bit. But also I have no voice, so...
It's a good thing because Miss Jen read double the number of books as Jay and I. So it's a good thing she has no voice because we're going to really test her here.
Perfect.
Everyone, send Ricola.
Yes, definitely. And a reminder, hit that subscribe button because we're rocketing to higher numbers. We're giving away soon. I think we are about to announce it now. Whatever the cool slabs are that we promised you guys, 20 slabs, CGC goodies that you guys are going to be seeing popping up on random shows. So you got to start watching them all. Pay attention.
Be watching for an announcement later in the week.
Perfect. And also, once we get past all of those, I have personally put up from my awesome collection of high ratio Marvel variants. Some 1 in 1,000s that'll blow your mind. Those will come up after that. So keep on adding to those numbers so I can get to my number, my secret number in my head. That'll get you to those goodies. It's all right. We're now going to do some reviews.
All right. So we've got a bunch of books and not a lot of time to book them. So we're going to get started right now with Ranger Stranger.
Okay. So Ranger Stranger is based on this really cool Instagram feed that I think most of their stuff is just like single panel gags about this Ranger Stranger, who basically has two compatriots that will go around with him. This little cute girl looks like she's from the 50s or 60s, and a beaver. I don't know why. Don't ask me. But in every single gag, the ranger who's supposed to give you hopeful knowledge about how to survive in the woods actually gives you the worst possible advice, and usually either kills himself or all the people that he's trying to help. And it's kind of funny. It also features cool of the era ads that are part of it. Some of them are super gaggy, and some of them are like, hey, I think this actually existed. The cover of this one is very helpful to you because it shows you in one of their classic gags. They're, gonna go diving, but he has helium in his little tank, and she's got nitrous oxide. She's gonna have a real good dive. She's gonna have a lot of fun.
So is he, just for the record. Guys, don't huff helium. It's just as bad as huffing other things.
No. It's bad for you. It will not help you survive under the water.
Well, and if you've ever taken a balloon and like sucked all the air out of it to make your voice sound like the Lollipop Guild, and you've done it too fast and you've gotten dizzy, that's a thing.
Oh, okay. Oh, and this one, I'm super excited. This one, I did not finish this one, so I cannot tell you who the actual murderer is. This is way different than any comic book you've ever seen. As a matter of fact, it's not very comic booky at all. It is more like a 24-page procedural. If you were into true crime, you will love this. So it is literally like sheets of the police reports, and you get to see the text between people, like images of the things they had in their pockets. So there's been some murderies, and you're given lots of information a little bit at a time. And at the top of each page, it has a little green logo that says keep going. So you get to keep on building on the knowledge you have about this case. And you will have aha moments in which you flip back a few pages to be like, did I see what I thought I saw? Yeah, that doesn't jibe. There's somebody not telling the truth here. And then when you get way far into the book, it actually has a thing that says stop. It makes you think through all the things that you read and make a decision. Who do you think is the done it? And so this is like this is the way they're going to roll this out. It also features, once you read this awesome comic book, you can go and find, they actually have I believe a game that goes along with this. I don't know if it's out yet, or if it's Kickstartering, or if it's
Kickstarter exclusive.
Okay. So it's from the crazy mind of Josh Werner, and it's brilliant, and it gave me all the things that I wanted, and I was sad that I couldn't finish it, but it is truly one of those things that when a book is worth all its money, this is totally worth all its money.
All right. Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer #1. This is the first issue of the second volume of Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer. If you haven't read Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer, the thing you need to know is that Buffy's old. Like real old. Like Spike is 1600, so figure out how many that makes Buffy.
Oh, so not like me, older.
Like old. And in this book, she is Mr. Miyagi to this character, THESSALY, who is the daughter of Willow and Tara, who is the new Slayer. She is Giles. She is the Watcher. She is her trainer. This story continues the story set up in Volume 1. If you remember at the end of Volume 1, Thessaly's like, I don't want to be the Slayer, and I don't want to deal with Buffy. And you find out in the last panel that she doesn't have a choice, because that's how these things work. And so this is Buffy as her temporary watcher until her real watcher is available or whatever. And her trying to train Thessaly to be a Slayer. And it's got some good points, but it almost feels sitcom-y. As opposed to being true to the Buffy story. So if you're a big fan of the original Buffy series, this one's kind of a nebulous choice for you. But if you're interested in seeing what Buffy and that whole gang might look like 600 years in the future, or whatever this winds up being, this is for you.
I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. Do they explain why she has like super longevity? Is it just what you get when you're a Slayer?
I don't remember that from the first volume. Do you, Jay?
No.
Yeah, I don't remember from the first volume. I bet it has something to do with Spike.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. That makes sense to me.
That would be my guess, but they haven't really spelled it out that I can remember. Strange Academy, Miles Morales.
Mm-hmm. That's me.
This book is called Solve for X.
It is.
I'm out.
What?
Don't put letters in my math.
It's very mathy.
Don't put letters in my math.
So it might have helped if you have read any of the Strange Academy books, because then you will know all the kids and what their powers are and stuff. But, you know, they've been through the ringer because they've been through the death of Doctor Strange and Cleo coming on and, you know, becoming the head of everything, but not the school. They faced crazy things like Dormammu before, which is funny because that kid down there with the fire head, that's Dormammu's son.
Dormammu?
Dormammu, sorry. But he's got a fun name. I forgot his name, but his fun name. So these kids are, they stayed past the normal semester and are taking what essentially is summer school, which is way cool. And they've been asked if they would be inspired / would like to go on a, you know, all expenses paid trip to go be part of the math contest. So math bee or whatever they're called. And they were like, heck to the yeah. And Miles is at the same competition, is like one of the opening speakers. And of course, you know, no one else knows that he's, you know, Spider-Man. So this is going to be awkward. But then some bad guys show up and make everything real hard. But there is maths. There's maths.
All right. Jay?
Okay. So this is kind of my, I think, second Conan book I've ever read. This one starts out with Conan in a fight in a tavern. A fight he obviously wins. He's with this group, and the leader of the group has done some bad stuff and gotten some of their people killed. And Conan was kind of sticking up for him. So the other people in the group decide that Conan should get the share of the soldiers that died. And so he takes the share. He decides, I'm going to pay for the damages and get something to eat. And there's a barmaid that starts getting friendly with him. And out of nowhere, before that goes anywhere, there's a person that runs into the tavern and is like, the sky is black in the middle of the day. So naturally, everybody runs outside to see what this is. And, while they're looking, there's a woman from a tribe, and I think it was called the Pict. She comes racing up there. Now, she's very far away from where her tribe usually is. So everybody's kind of surprised that she's here. And she tells everyone, you need to flee. And when you see what she says to flee from, you'll understand why she's saying everybody needs to get out of here. I thought this was a really good story. If you're a fan of Conan, specifically the movie or the cartoon, which maybe I'm the only person that remembers the cartoon, I think this would be right up your alley.
I have to call shenanigans on that cover, though. Like, I understand, like, the 8-pack or whatever, but what are those millions of little knobby muscles right above a 6-pack?
Well, I wanted to call shenanigans on this cover because I think I've seen it on like 90 other Conan books. I'm like, did they create a new piece of art or did they just Dan Panosian this original SketchUp? Like, that's what I want to know.
It's pretty. I just want to know. I'm sure that it has actual anatomy, but I'm unaware of those. I've never felt those in all my life.
Miss Jen, let's not shame Conan for having a breakout in his underboob area. He's having some underboob acne. As any fat person who lives in a warm climate can tell you, it's a real problem.
Good. Oh, my word. Ooh, THESSALY. All right. I kind of feel guilty that I read this one and that Kyle did not get to because I think he would have been really into it. So this focuses in on a woman who it's clear that she's got some kind of like real shallow arrangement, friendship with another girl named Mike. And they just make out. That's it. With nothing else. And it's unclear. One of them's very clear that it's like, oh, I'm glad we've got this kind of arrangement that we just don't, there's nothing else. But then, the main character gets kind of quiet about that. So, she has a little more, like she wishes at least that it was an option. So she leaves and goes to work. You find out that she works at some kind of Hollywood place. Her boss, who is a horrible person and assumes that she will, sleep with him whenever, even though he's married, one of those guys, basically says, why don't I have the treatment for this big project? Because the higher ups really need to have it. So you need to figure out how to make it happen. And I don't care how, whether it's the person that we paid to do it or somebody else, I got to have a treatment. So she ends up going and meeting this main character here, who really is THESSALY, but that's not what she goes by, who gives her special tea, who makes her kind of, druggied. And as she tries to get her to the exchange rate here, presumably like when you're dealing with the devil, is that she would like to have this main character find someone to write the treatment for her so she doesn't have to do it, because she is obsessed with trying to figure out why she is obsessed with what's going on and not able to focus. So she has past relationships with Sandman, the dreamer. and other characters. She has a really deep, rich back history, which is also explored in this. But it's really dark. I mean, so for fans, if you like the Corinthian, you'll like this character a lot. It has the same kind of dark overtones and very, very bloody stuff. I don't really know what Thessaly's up to, but she's cooking people's faces on her oven, so I don't know.
Yeah. Can I give a little bit? I haven't read this book yet, but I'm the Sandman guy. So 2 things to look for when you're looking at Sandman Universe books to tell you where they are. You see where it says a pivotal chapter of the Nightmare Country saga?
Mm-hmm.
If you see Nightmare Country, that means Corinthian.
Oh, because it does mention that it ties to the Dead Boy Detectives that was the last issue.
Right. If you see Dead Boy Detectives, that ties to Dead Boy Detectives. If you see like Sandman Mystery Theater or Sandman Overture, or any of that kind of stuff, that is Dream. That's Morpheus and Dream, or David, or any of the other people who take on the title of Dream. The thing about Thessaly is that she's a witch.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember from Sandman Volume 1, his interactions with the Fates, things like that, Thessaly is on par with them. All of the Endless know who she is, have interacted with her, as have all the gods, as have more people than you would think. So the fact that Thessaly is getting her own story is a big deal in the Sandman universe. This particular issue is tied to Nightmare Country. She did show up in Pornsack Pichette Schotte's Dead Boy Detective story, and wreaks some havoc. I would say that Thessaly is to the Sandman universe what Venom was to the Marvel universe for a real long time, where she shows up, makes a mess, and disappears. And you get a good story of how people sort out having dealt with Thessaly. Which
I like her.
Yeah, I like her. And I'm not going to say on the air in front of everyone that she reminds me of my ex-girlfriend.
I also read the oddly pedestrian life of Christopher Chaos. I have really bad eyesight, so I can't see it. Number 2.
This was on all of our list.
Oh, was it really? Are you guys do this one then?
I was not prepared for you to say that. I didn't take notes on this book the way I take notes for other things on Minute to Skim It. So I don't have plot points or story beats to kind of mention. This is not high on my reading list.
Really?
No. And I'll tell you why. This is based on an idea by James Tynion that he handed off to Tate Bromall to write. And I don't think he gave Tate Bromall enough of the structure of the idea. And so Tate's kind of figuring it out. And so if you've read the first 2 issues, it really is just missing an unparrot joke to really bring it all together. But it isn't until the end of this book that you start to say, oh, well, this might be something interesting that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So just know that the first issue and this issue are very meh until the last few panels. And then it's meh! So
for fans of, there's a weird religious cult looking thing going on. They look like to be the responsible for the death of the person that everyone just thinks is missing. And Christopher Chaos is trying to find the body because he has figured out a way to reanimate things, including a dead pigeon that is his best friend.
Right, an unparrot.
Jay, you want to add anything?
It's just weird enough to where I dig it. It's just weird enough. That's all I got for it.
And this all takes place in the background of high school, super awkward high school.
That's the other thing I will say about this book, and I didn't say it on the last show, and I'll say it now. I feel like this was written and intended to be a Disney Plus show, and not a comic book.
Maybe it will be. Maybe it will be.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It feels like it was written to be a streaming show and not necessarily a comic book. So, what else did you have to say about it, Miss Jen?
That's it. I mean, that's the hook, right?
Yeah. He's Reanimator. Got it. All right. Heat Seeker.
Buttons of Steel.
Okay. So don't read this book in public. Don't read this book in front of children. Don't read this book in front of anyone who is maybe a little prudish.
It's the same thing for anything gun honey.
Correct. But there's a lot.
Okay.
Coming out of the first issue of Heat Seeker, I wasn't really hooked. A lot of these hard case crime stories either hook me in the first issue or I don't like any of it. This, however, is neither of those. Coming out of the first issue, I wasn't hooked. And then you come into this issue and they basically tell you, hey, you remember that whole first issue you read where you're like, this doesn't make any sense and you don't really like it? Ha ha! We were kidding. The whole first issue is a red herring. And I made this joke the last hour, but I'm making it again. It's funny because she has red hair.
Gingers.
But it's not even real red hair. So even the red hair is a red herring.
Yeah.
The whole first book is like setting the plot, setting the hook, and then reeling you in this book. There's some, Ocean's 11 level trickeration happening here. And it's super interesting. It's a story of, you have government assassins who are the bad guys, and you have these people who you think would be the bad guys who are the good guys, and then there's like an unhinged sister who is just like a video game character who wants to shoot everything and everyone. Like she's just off her rocker, just shooting everyone. Like in sort of like a stormtrooper because she doesn't hit many people, but when she does hit, it's pretty violent. So it's, you've got this kind of crazy family story plus lovers plus government agents plus there's a death that no one can really solve and they're trying to make someone disappear. This has all of the, I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm so totally hooked on this mystery that it's going to bring you into the rest of the series. This is fantastic. Ed Brubaker called it the finest kind of pulp noir, and if anybody knows, it's Ed Brubaker. So that should be enough of a endorsement of this book, but just phenomenal. Also, boobs.
Oh, no.
That can be a review of its own for this book. Boobs.
Just also, ... BEWBS.
Yes. But you're going to use a 5 for the last, it's 80085.
I love it.
Oh, maybe I make a joke about going from a book that's got a lot of boobs and sex in it to Iceman.
The Iceman, the opposites. Iceman, you would have believed from reading the Heckfire Gala stuff that Iceman also is part of the all of mutant kind, which had been skedaddled from Krakoa. Many of them maybe the dead. So that you can find out that this is not true in his case. I'm not sure. Is this his actual significant other? I can't remember. But he has figured out a way to he can call forth like him down to the tiniest of his atoms. So he sucked him out of there without anybody knowing. And so Iceman starts showing up in this one and really making those guys that are part of the big program to try to take down all of mutantdom really mad and also confused. So this is all about him showing back up and throwing a wrench into all of their plans, and it's okay. I like big story arcs, and this feels like it's setting something else up. So we'll see. Nick is on. We'll talk about it when we get to that review.
This one of yours, Jay, or is this one of mine?
This is mine. I was just looking for
Go, Jay, go.
Okay, I'm going to get out my Robotech toy and just play with it while you talk about this book.
So, first of all, I should have known this was an actual cartoon, but I didn't because it reminded me of other cartoons. we start out with the pilot, Rick Hunter, getting a promotion. And then it feels like almost immediately after that, he and his team are sent on a mission. And while they're fighting, he's having flashbacks of his adopted brother, and his adopted brother was also a pilot. And apparently there was an accident. They don't really say what happens, but there was an accident where the injuries left Rick in a coma, but the brother succumbed to his. Then we come back to the main story, and after seeing what's going on with where they were supposed to be going, Rick says they need to plan their next move. And then in the final shot, you finally see the enemy, and it's like the last. I want to say it's almost the last page, but it was interesting. It was interesting. So I mean, if you were a fan of this cartoon as a kid, I know nothing about it, but you might want to pick this up, check it out.
We have a bunch to recommend to you then. If you haven't seen Robotech, there's a bunch of stuff that was out in that same kind of era, which is the same feel and awesomeness.
And apparently, according to Dan, I named most of them when I said what I thought this reminded me of. I named a lot of them. I was like Voltron and
Battleship Yamamoto, baby.
It's true, though. I haven't played with this in so long, I've forgotten how to transform it. I'm almost there. Anyway.
You should know better than actually transforming anything. It's over now. Throw it away. Death of the Venomverse. Dadgummit. I love it when these books come out, because I know the people who write them and what kind of mood and tone they're going to give us. So this is pretty straightforward. It's exactly what it says on the front. You've got the Carnage symbiote, who is controlled by nobody. There is nobody that he is a symbiote for. He's just Carnage, who's decided he's going to go and take out and absorb the power of all the Venoms from all the multiverses. So this book has got awesome things, like you get to see from other universes what's, all of their characters might look like if they were Venomized, which was wicked cool. I'm going to let you guys discover all of those. And then at the end, it forms a team that you guys are going to lose your mind over. They might be sinister.
The Sinister 17. Got it.
Oh, and the Dark Droids. Oh, man, I don't know how they're fitting this into the overall universe, because it appears to take place right smack dab in the middle of all of the stuff that we know and love, in which Luke's still around, and R2-D2 and 3PO and all those guys. Looks like as part of the characters of the droids universe, are some droids that are kind of like self-actualized or whatever. They actually are in their own control. You meet them about 2/3 through the book. But the main storyline is about what looks like, I don't know, a hubcap that is sentient, that looks like if it can touch a droid, it can take it over. And does some pretty major moves. Goes from one droid to taking over an entire Star Destroyer. And it is unclear what its intentions are, other than just replicating itself a billion times. But it's really cool. And it has a purple as a theme, so I like it.
Sentient hubcaps are the main characters in my Little Shop of Horrors sequel parody. Tire Shop of Horrors.
I like that cover, though. It's a nice cover.
All right. Project Rise. I don't know how to say the second word, if it's Rise or Ries, because it's German. This is from Mad Cave and written by Zach Thompson with art by Jeff McCumsey. You go the whole book thinking it's one thing.
Oh, I like this kind.
And then at the very end of the book, it's a different thing.
Ooh.
It actually changes genres at the end of the book, which is, I'll be honest, is a little disappointing because I think, well, and I'm gonna caveat that little bit of disappointment with, I think the first concept could have been a really strong miniseries in and of itself.
Okay, what genre is that?
A heist.
Ooh, okay.
And the second story has all the potential, and I love what the second genre is, which is horror. It turns into a horror story at the very end.
Okay.
I think just doing a heist story set in this time with this cast of characters and these people would have been very fascinating. I think doing a horror story set at these times with these people could still be very fascinating, but it's like a different thing. It's like, it would be like going to see Bob Dylan and it turns out that it's Metallica. Both are enjoyable for different reasons. And they don't necessarily mesh well together. So we're going to have to see how this goes. But just know it's Indiana Jones meets Supernatural a little bit is kind of where I think it's going. But the whole first 2/3 of the book, it's Indiana Jones meets the librarian.
Which, if you don't see it all, because it looks like isn't that like underwater?
No.
Stuff in the background? No? Okay.
Yeah, that is that, but no, it's not underwater.
There's a lie.
But you'll understand why I say no when you read it. It's like, it's under something, not underwater.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is a book that has a lot of potential, has a lot of stuff going for it. Definitely. And I said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. If you haven't been picking up Mad Cave books and you've been looking for a reason, this is a great place to jump in. It isn't like something like Nottingham where you've got to have 3 miniseries of backstory now, or some of these other books like You've Been Canceled where it feels ultra political. This is just an action movie or an action comic. They have a little bit of horror. They have a little bit of mystery, a little bit of heist. Very cool concept. I do want to say, if you're freaked out by things with 3 fingers, maybe skip the last couple of pages.
Okay.
Creature feature.
Ooh, yes. Okay, so you can always tell when I really love a book or series when you see me reviewing like number 3s and 4s or whatever. I was obsessed with this because it's the same Indiana Jones feel that Kyle's been talking about. And it's so weird because I'm actually reading a Kai Cluster right now, and it also has the same kind of jab. So I like it because it also takes place in like Israel. But this is Ben Mortara, and he is essentially an architect, but archaeologist. But he has found himself in this weird world in which they have found part of a map that is supposed to be taking them to the table from Solomon's temple that has power of some sort or the other, and they found like a leg, but everyone else is trying to kill them or find them or get the things that they're after. So it is all that fun that you've ever wanted in a book series, and it's got good character development because in this one it kind of does some flashback to Ben's earlier life, in which he has one of his parents basically disparage his heritage because he's Jewish, and just say we're not going to teach our boy anything about his heritage and stuff. So it's kind of interesting to see the way he's turned out in his life with all of that in play. So I just love things like this. Marriage of awesome storytelling.
All right, Jay.
All right. So this one starts out with the BPRD being sent to a sawmill. There have been reports of paranormal activity throughout the years. 7 years prior, one of the agents that goes back with them was there with his old partner, and they didn't hear anything. Nothing. Um, they get out to the sawmill, and Archie, the name of the agent. He's still very skeptical. He's like, I think it's probably just like a stray cat or a stray dog making noise. But you come to find out, nope, not at all. It's it's neither one of those things, and it's something that only Hellboy can fight. And I was a big fan of this one. It's very short, but this is if you're a Hellboy fan, like especially like Kyle is, Kyle enjoyed it too. So you should definitely pick up this series. It was really good.
Well, it's a one shot.
One shot.
So the big thing that I've been saying for a while is that the Hellboy universe is getting a little sprawling. There are a lot of from the pages of the Hellboy universe or from the pages of the BPRD, and it's you're having a hard time sometimes reading these series that they're doing, drawing the lines back to Hellboy in the BPRD. How does this story connect? You don't know, right? This is right in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
This is the BPRD sending field agents into the field to field agent. And one of those field agents is a big red dude. And I will say this because it's different folks watching this time than last. If you read this book, try to imagine Andre Braugher from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that very deadpan but still hysterical kind of delivery coming out of Hellboy's mouth.
All right, I can do that.
It's great. What if Dark Venom? I don't want to know what happens if Venom gets on the thing, Miss Jen.
No, you don't want to know?
No.
You should not read this book at all.
No, that's how you get Terminators. I'm just sure of it.
So this one, Ben is very, grumpy about being Ben, and still looks like he is really mad at Reed, even though Reed tells him very specifically, I will never stop trying to fix you if that is what you really want. That he's really sincere about it. But they've also captured a Venom symbiote that's in the lab when they're talking. And, Reed leaves the room for half a second. So what does Ben do? He listens to Venom and opens the jar, of course. So this is interesting because it doesn't just stick with him. He actually jumps away or is stolen by a bad guy that you're not really prepared for, which is kind of cool. But Ben does get him back. But it's a kind of a good look. Like I don't think they've ever given any of the Fantastic Four symbiote. So this is kind of neat. And for small amounts of time, it does appear that the symbiote does allow him to appear human, which is kind of what he's hoping for. But it's not all he thought it would be.
Yeah, that's just a license for destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of a license for destruction, we're going to talk about Dirk Manning, and his head's going to get so big I won't be able to breathe for a week. Love you, Dirk.
You guys want to lead out?
Oh, no, we haven't read this book.
Oh, you are? Okay, good.
Okay, I have read this book, but not for this, and I wasn't supposed to have.
Okay, so you cannot neither confirm nor deny you've seen this book.
Yeah, no, I didn't steal it from Dirk. No, that didn't happen.
Okay, so this was really heartbreaking to me because for the whole first series, you really see this main character who was really doing a successful job at being an Ultra, but not telling anybody, including her family. In the first issue of the first series, she's in a car accident, which really almost kills her husband. It really hurts him very, very severely. And it outs her as a super or as an Ultra. So the government kind of like brings her in and takes her daughter away from her. And that seems to be fairly permanent. At least it carries through to this story. And so that's kind of where this starts, where her husband's still in a coma at the beginning of the book. And the world is trying to figure out what to do with her. Because you were supposed to register as soon as you found out you were an Ultra in this universe, and she did not. And they're worried about why that is. It also introduces some characters that are Ultras that are part of her life that saw her early on and did not, they knew that she was, but never told anybody else, which is kind of cool of them. And by the time you get to the end of this book, you really like all the things that she loves are really being ripped from her. And in this case, one of the things she loves is deciding to rip itself away, which is really bad. So if you like crying and or feeling heartbroken, this book and series is way less about being a superhero. There's almost no superheroing. It is way more about what the human condition of a super is, which is things aren't all great. So if you like the sad Peter Parker, this is probably a jam. It's mine.
I don't want to talk about how much crap I gave Dirk for this remote.
Why is it bad?
It's the remote that they put in hotel rooms when they just want to throw the remote away when it's done.
Or in hospitals.
No, because in hospitals you don't have a remote anymore. They got the little thing that's anyway.
It needs a wire on it. You're right.
It does need a wire, or it needs to be an actual remote. Anyway, TMNT, The Last Ronin, Lost Years, number 5. This is the end of this series. If you have not read the first 4 issues of this series, I promised I wouldn't tell anybody to not pick anything up, but buy this and then go buy the other 4 issues to go with it.
Good recommendation.
That's don't buy this on its own. Buy it with everything else. Get the trade. Get everything. This book feels like a giant. The cover should just say "To be continued." It's the end of the series, but it doesn't end the story, and in fact spends the whole issue teeing you up for the next series. Now, if you've read the first 4 issues of this, it does wrap everything up. It's not the nice, neat little bow like you'd like, but it does its job of bringing everything kind of to a stasis. And then the next volume will continue that. That's the thing I dislike about this book, is that it doesn't end the story and it's the end of the volume, right? Like, wrap up your story arc and then start another story arc in your next volume. That said, overall, Last Ronin Lost Years has been very good. It's been a lot of fun. It doesn't have quite the same magic as the original Last Ronin, where it was Kevin and Peter working together again. But this has all of the earmarks of the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles going right now. It's much better than the regular series, especially coming out of Armageddon Game. The regular series is kind of a mess, and this is not. So read this all as one big book. Get all 5 issues, read it all. I think you'll be happy. But just know, this is not a place to jump in because it's the last book of the volume. You got to jump in way back at number 1. So Magneto.
This goes all the way back to the beginning of the X-Men. So if you don't know anything about Magneto, you've been thinking to yourself, hey, I don't own an X-Men number 1 and I can't afford an X-Men number 1. This is probably a good place to figure out the universe. Magneto spends a lot of time in this, reminiscing about the old days with the original team, and spends a lot of time dealing with the ghosts of his past, including Auschwitz. So you get to learn a little bit more about him in that way. And then him basically working alongside what are mostly New Mutants there.
All right, Miss Jen, take a break, take a drink. I can see it in your face that you need a drink. We have time.
Like, I can make it.
Die. There we go.
Okay. So there's very, very funny parts in here, in this other part where they're like all students, right? And he's trying to deal with them in that way. This one doesn't move a whole bunch of world around. There's no Prof X. It's him saying, wow, basically, how did I get stuck with doing Prof X's job? The person I love and hate. So this one is truly a great place to jump on and read if you would like a refresher course on who this guy is, what his personalities have been. He's named all of his different names, Eric Leischer, all of his other ones. And it gives you some good knowledge about some of the New Mutants guys over there, which is awesome.
Okay. Next up.
Yeah. This one's metal.
Jay?
All right. So this starts out with a tribe walking through the woods, and the elder is telling the younger ones a story of a mouse that lived between a dragon and a tiger. And they always fight, and no matter who wins, the mouse is going to be the one that suffers. They stop after this story, and they set up camp, and they're sitting around a campfire, and they're attacked by these raiders, and one of the group is taken to have some kind of ritual performed on them. Then after that, we're introduced to a lot of. It feels to me like a lot of characters. There's a guy on an icy mountaintop that shows up near the end of the book. There's two brothers and their mom. Then there's a mother and daughter that were following the raiding party that attacked the initial tribe in the beginning of the book. And then there's another mom and son duo that are performing the ritual on the tribesmen that got taken at the beginning. And then the mother and daughter that were following the raiders, they bust in and they stop the ritual from happening. And that's where I'll leave it, because I feel like I can't follow my own train of thought with this, but I don't want to get too. I think if I say anything else, it'll start getting too spoilery. This was interesting. If you were a fan of this, if this was something you were waiting for, you should definitely pick this up.
Yeah, it feels like a Frank Frazetta story. Even if Frank Frazetta is maybe not your jam, you should pick this up just because it does have some universality to it that I think everyone will enjoy.
Yeah, just also for people that aren't familiar with this, Fire and Ice was a 1983 animated film that he co-wrote. And so it is based on universe stuff that he built. This is a prequel to that. The art inside is not Frazetta, but it is next level gorgeous. It's very honoring to his original vision. And what else can I say about this? It's characters that you will recognize because it just happens 2 years as a prequel to the original show.
Cool. And yes, go back and watch yesterday's Talking Shop with Miss Jen to hear Sarah Frazetta talk about this book.
She's boss.
Yes. Okay. I saved this for last, and I saved it for last for a reason, Miss Jen.
Okay.
This is Rick Remender doing Rick Remender things. Am I right?
Big universe building.
Right. So this is the thing I'm most excited about this week that isn't something I've already read. So I saved it for last so that I could really be into it. Go.
So this intertwines two storylines. One is, you can kind of see him on the front cover there. Looks like anthropomorphic, I'm going to say bird of some sort. Unclear. He has a very difficult family life. And his father has, for some reason, selected him to be an outsider to their fairly large family as a mom and 4 other siblings, I think. And he endures some abuse. So just be aware that there's some trigger warning there. Interspersed with this really cool, I don't know what these other beings are except for to call them gods. That creature up at the top is the daughter of what appears to be the god. And she's sassy. I like her.
Is that it?
No, I didn't know if you wanted to add.
No, I'm just very excited. Like the fact that she's sassy is interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. And so basically, the storylines start to intertwine. You find out that the bird creatures are part of. They're all connected as a universe. They have need of people to be sacrificed, and so the dad, of course, selects this one son, who is his unfavorite, to go and be part of that group. So it's kind of when you see him be led off. Now, how this is all going to work out for the salty daughter who doesn't pay attention to anything her dad tells her to do, I'm unsure. But I like this kind of big universe where it's like, okay, the damage of this kid is going to be important in some way, but we don't know yet.
Cool. Very excited. I'm glad I added that one to my pull list at the very last second. I'm glad I got it.
You'll be very happy.
Cool. Well, that is everything. That's all the books for this week that we were going to talk about. Miss Jen, I wanted to ask you about something. I didn't see that you read it, but I wanted to ask you about it. Did you get a book called Meanwhile? It's an anthology. Meanwhile, a comic shop anthology.
I might not have. I didn't see it in the piles.
Okay. Well, I'm also, that's something to look out for. It's an anthology. It's not from a major publisher, but it's edited by a friend of Jen and I, Ryan Higgins.
Can't miss something.
Yeah, but written by Scott Snyder, Brian Michael Bendis, Jeff Johns, Joss Williamson, Dan Johnson, Eva Cabrera, Ariella Christiana, Drew Roush, Sue Lee, Lonnie Moore. Like, there's just so many people who contributed to this anthology about what happens inside comic shops. So check that one out too.
And a reminder, if you missed my interview with Sarah Rosetta yesterday, it is loaded up on the Experience YouTube. You can just go and watch it at your leisure. It'll get you a lot more insight into that Fire and Ice book. And you will also love her like I love her now. So
awesome. All right. Well, that will do it for us. Stay tuned immediately after this on the Experience for Mint Hunter Comics. And Miss Jen will have tomorrow's Comics Today over on CBSN. So if you're not in one of those places, what are you even doing?
I don't know. Maybe watching Bronze Age.
That's fair, but he's not live. I would know. So we will see everybody next week on Minute to Skim It.
Thanks,
Kyle. I've been Kyle. That's been Jay. Miss Jen. All the things. We're done early, and I don't know what to do.
Exit stage left.
All right.